Sensing and thinking are the two main functions of our mind. Sensing is natural and unintentional. It happens automatically, naturally, without any prompting. That means our sense organs, we have 5 sense organs externally, and internal sense organ is called the mind. The external 5 sense organs called eye, ear, nose, tongue, skin, they supply information to the mind. Other than the information supplied by the external sense organs, our mind gets information from our brain that has preserved or saved the memories of all our experiences that we call knowledge. When the external sense organs send a signal of some awareness in the particular sense organs, the mind refers it to our brain for recognition. With regard to sense organs, there is a cognition, sensation, and sensation can be interpreted by the mind with the help of the previous information regarding such an object of the sense organ. That ultimately leads to a series of thought formations. Every thought is a mental image. Thinking is the formation of a series of mental images. Generally, our mind thinks of things that we like, dislike, or ignorant of. We have to think of things that we like, either to keep them preserved, or if we don't have them, to get things that we like. We have to think of things that we dislike, to get rid of them if you have them. But if you don't have them at the moment, prevent their intruding into our life. To avoid what is unpleasant, to avoid what we dislike, we have to think of. Another factor is the mind is thinking of things that the mind does not know. Ignorance is not knowing. Therefore, the process called thinking, the thought process, is based on our likes, dislikes, and ignorance. In Pali, liking is called raga. It means attachment to things that we like. That we like means attachment to pleasant things, pleasant experiences. Disliking is called dosa in Pali and dvesha in Sanskrit. That is resentment or removal. We want to remove what is unpleasant. We have to preserve and keep or get what is pleasant And if we have something unpleasant, remove them or protect our mind, our life from unpleasant things, including our mind and our life. Ignorance of things is called moha in Pali. Moha or ignorance is not only not knowing things, basically not knowing the reality of things. It is the root cause of our liking and disliking. For example, the first disciple of the Buddha, known as Kondanya, ascetic Kondanya, Reverend ascetic Kondanya, after listening to the Buddha's first sermon called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, realized that all thought forms are born to die. In the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Buddha mentioned that phenomenon as Yankinchi samudaya dhammam sabbantan nirodha dhammati. All mental formations are born to die. That is very important with regard to our peace of mind and with regard to enlightenment, because we know nothing other than the mental formations stimulated by our sensory experiences that we know. And not a single sense organ of ours is able to know the reality of anything. Their capacities are limited. Therefore, the information supplied by the sense organs to our mind is imperfect, limited, faulty. It is on this false information that we start thinking. Therefore, the basic cause of our thinking is ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of the basic reality. One basic truth is we cannot know anything other than mental formations, because our sense organs are incapable of knowing the reality of anything. And mind is able to know only the mental images, mental formations. And the reality behind this, all mental images are illusions. They are not realities, though they appear to be real. When you think of somebody or something, an image of that person or thing appear in our mind, and it looks as if it is real. And we get deceived by those mental images. We have been misguided. In these circumstances, the real emancipation, the real freedom called vimukti is being free from our own mind. Though our mind is the most useful organ, the machinery in our day-to-day life, because without mind, without thinking, without ideas, without information, we cannot live. Our failure or success in life, our prosperity or adversity in life depends on the capacity of our mind. Therefore, in our day-to-day living, our mind and our thinking caused by mind or produced by mind form the most important, most valuable, most precious machinery. But to be enlightened, we had to free of the conditioning caused by the mind, the misleading caused by mind, our mind. That happens after the realization of the real truth of things. Things are nothing other than our mental formations. As I mentioned earlier, the first disciple of the Buddha realized that all mental formations are born to die. With that realization, what happens to our mind is, we don't get attached to mental formations. As I mentioned earlier, we can experience nothing other than our mental formations. Our entire world is mind-made. That is why it is mentioned in the first stanza of Dhammapada, Manomaya. Our world is Manomaya, made by our mind. They are illusions, and we like them if they are pleasant, we dislike them if they are unpleasant. Enlightenment is realizing the reality of the illusion. That means realization of the moha. Once we realize that they are illusions, that they are defective, and they give us wrong information about things, with that realization, the ignorance called moha get extinct. Along with that, the attachment to pleasant mental images and resentment of mental images disappear. Attachment is called raga in Pali, resentment is called dvesha in Sanskrit and dosa in Pali. Ignorance is called moha. Enlightenment means the extinction of raga, dosa, moha. Attachment to mental formations, resenting mental formations, being ignorant of the reality or the truth or the real nature of faulty mental images. With that, what happens is the mind becomes empty of its content. The content of the mind is our thoughts and feelings, the thinking process, the feeling process. There is no more thinking and feeling after enlightenment. Because we think of things we like, dislike, or ignorant. Ignorant means ignorant the real nature. Enlightenment is the complete extinction of likes, dislikes, and ignorance. Raga, dosa, moha. And such a mind is called free from attachment, raga, with ragi, free from dosa, resentment, free from vita dosi, and free from ignorance, vita mohi. Then at the enlightenment, thinking ceases. Thinking means formation of thought, formation of mental images, the illusory mental images. At the enlightenment, after the enlightenment, Buddha uttered a paean of joy, saying that at the enlightenment, his thinking process ceased. The formation of mental images ceased. Because with the enlightenment, he was able to see the truth. In the Dvana Sutta, The nirvana realized by the state of mind realized by the enlightenment is called anantang sabbato pabam. Anantam means boundless in space and time. Sabbato pabam means all illuminated, perfectly illuminated. That means nothing is hidden. The mind is clear. It gets illuminated with the disappearance of the darkness of ignorance caused by our thought forms. Thought forms are the real ignorance, the moha. Our moha is nothing other than thinking, other than forming mental images. When that darkness disappears, there is nothing other than the light. Boundless light, limitless light, that is called sabbato paba, a realistic mind. Though thinking ceases after enlightenment, sensation is there, but without feeling of pain and pleasure. And that type of sensation in the enlightened mind is called sanya vedaita, becoming aware of sense signals, signals sent by the sense organ. When the eye comes in contact with an image called Reverend Sariputta, the Buddha gets the information, the mind. He knows that this is Sariputta, Reverend, this is Reverend Moggallana, this is Reverend Ananda, etc. This is a tree, he knows about it. Awareness of sensation is there, but those minds do not think of what they become aware. In the very first sermon, Buddha said, dukkha, that is translated into English as suffering. Suffering is not a perfect, full idea of the word dukkha, but suffering is also a form of dukkha, a transformation. In that sutta, Buddha said, in short, dukkha, or what we call suffering, is nothing other than our thinking. Both our pains and pleasures are caused by our thinking, a thought. For example, lobha, that the greed, is a form of thought. Dvesha, hatred, is a form of thought. Thinking. Ignorance, I don't know, that is a form of thought. At enlightenment, the thinking process completely ceases because that mind is free of likes, dislikes and ignorance. Ignorance of the reality of our mental forms that we experience as realities. Realizing that they are unreal, and the realization that the first disciple got was, they are born to die. Therefore, there is no point in getting attached to them or resenting them. They will disappear, whether you resent or not. And that mind becomes calm, free from thinking. Thinking is inner speech, silent speech. Therefore, Krishnamurti referred to that state of mind as a silent mind, non-speaking mind. There is awareness, complete awareness, everything that the mind comes through the contacts made by sense organs, the mind becomes aware. It is awareness that one practices on the path to nirvana also. Without thinking, the meditation process for enlightenment depends on awareness called satipatthana, establishment of awareness. There is sensation, there is knowing, but no thinking. Thinking ceases when the mind is free of attachment and resentment and ignorance. Knowing or awareness of sensation means absence of ignorance of sensation. Free from attachment to sensation is free from attachment, vitaragi. Free from resentment means vitadosi. And such a mind is a blissful mind. And when all thinking ceases, when the mind becomes empty, and empty mind is called, the quality of the empty mind is called sunyata in Pali, and that is the name given even to denote what one realizes after enlightenment. What is nirvana? Nirvana is nothing other than the clearance of the mind, emptiness of the mind. The mind free from thinking. Mind free from the burden of thinking. Mind free from the misleading of thinking. Mind free from the tension caused by thinking. And such a mind is blissful when thinking ceases. But until the final passing away, awareness of sense signals remain, and that is called sanya vedaita. Temporarily, it ceases in the trance called sanya vedaiti nirodha samapatti. That awareness of sensation completely ceases at the final passing away called parinibbana. At nibbana, enlightenment, thinking ceases. At parinibbana, the final passing away, sensation ceases. Thereafter, there is no body, no form, and no suffering. And that is the perfect bliss one can achieve. It is wrong to say one can achieve or realize. There is nobody to achieve or realize that. The idea of self, ego, ceases at the first step to nirvana called sotapanna, known as streaming stage. The remnant of anusaya, the remnant power of the idea of self, ceases completely at the final passing away with the extinction of both mind and the body.